Hello and welcome to another episode of Never Onside. Hi, this is Joseph, and joining me as usual is Mayur Chopradekar. The curtains have fallen on a scintillating season of football where we saw a lot of drama, a lot of great footballing action, and eventually, even the last day didn't disappoint us in terms of what we have seen in Bundesliga and also City were in another level towards the end of the season, and they deservedly got the Premier League. And we saw Arsenal losing out by almost the 35th game week, and this was the crowning moment this game week when um, City lifted the trophy in terms of Premier League. And let's look at all the major leagues in Europe and discuss what has transpired in the last week. So in the Premier League, as you can see, the top four as always is very important, and towards the latter, the after the 35th game week, almost we got a picture of what is going to happen, except for Liverpool trying to topple United and Newcastle from the top four spot. That was a last ditch challenge by Liverpool, but we eventually knew that City, Arsenal, United, and Newcastle would complete the top four, and three of the four were not in the Champions League last year, which means three other teams lost out. In I guess Liverpool, Chelsea, and Tottenham
Yes.
lost out. So the um, the depth of the Premier League is something which always astounds us every single time. And Brighton also playing really well, competing with the top six, and going even toe to toe with the likes of City. So, how do you rate this season, Mayur?
So if we remember, we had our predictions as well in the start, where we predicted
Right.
that City, Chelsea, and Liverpool
Liverpool
will probably
did
finish in the top three. That
in
were
top.
our
Yeah.
predictions. Yes, and I predicted probably United might finish on fifth and sixth.
Yeah, right. And no
So
one
that
thought
didn't.
Arsenal would be in the top two.
Definitely. So that didn't go in their favor. And we have seen Liverpool tried it at the end, but it wasn't as fruitful as we thought. But at the end of the day, Newcastle United deserved whatever position they got because they were really good this season. In the start, they were playing very well. In the middle of the season, a lot of teams found out what they were doing and tried to get them into their own rhythm, and like try to stop them. But Newcastle were very clever in the end, and they were able to get that fourth spot which they deserved a lot. Apart from that, the two teams which I'm more surprised about is Aston Villa. The way they started, they were 17th when Gerrard was sacked. So from
Mm.
17 to 7, it takes a lot of things to go right in their favor, and takes a lot of things as well. Like we saw Emery coming in and changing the whole landscape for Aston Villa. And apart from that, Brighton, who were a good team, but again, midway change of managers, Graham Potter left the club, and in came De Zerbi, who took the reins very well and still managed to finish them in their sixth position.
Mm. I still remember us doing a podcast on Disabri and how he would transform this Brighton side. And we were right in the end. We knew that he would rotate the players each week. He would try to fit in different players in different positions. And the most surprising thing was Trossard being the talisman till he came. And even the first game he came in, I think Trossard scored and assisted two goals or scored or brace, something like that. And then everyone thought this is the time for Trossard to step up. This is the new Brighton. This is their talisman. And within weeks, he fell out with the manager and moved on. And Brighton, how they, cope with all that, and how they engineer new ways to come in and compete with the likes of United, Arsenal, City, Newcastle is something extraordinary, and their journey from League One to here was something. dramatic, and I'm sure credit to all the Brighton fans for this. And for me, United were lucky to finish in the top four eventually, because we did slip up in certain points in the season, but eventually, because a lot of teams like Liverpool, Brighton didn't capitalize, we got into the third spot eventually, and it's a step in the right direction. But we need a lot of transfers to compete with Manchester City and Arsenal in the end. So that is the takeaway that we have from this season. Let's
Yes.
move on
Just
to.
before we move on, any surprises was with the relegation teams? Uh, Leicester relegation.
For
What do
me,
you?
losing Leicester is a huge moment in Premier League, because we have seen the success. We have seen how passionate the fans are, how the club was run towards 2016-17, those part, and also Madison, Vardy, Tielemans, Ward, Soyuncu, all these players would eventually leave the club, and that will take a huge toll on Leicester City, the size of the club. And I was sure Southampton uh, would go into this relegation battle when we started the season. Like we could realize that, but then Leeds, Leicester, Everton, out of this, two sides would have got relegated. When we knew that, it hit us that two big teams are going to get relegated. But eventually, Leicester and Leeds did lose too many games, and Everton were lucky to get away with it. I think Everton is a good fit for Sean Dyche. So that's why everything clicked. Even the players, everything looked. Even Tarkowski and players like that were there for him, to help him, and to the last march to get out of the relegation zone was something interesting. And I'm sure Leicester and Leeds should be able to jump right back into the Premier League, because they have too much quality in their ranks, even if they lose some of their star players. Southampton, they gave us a good farewell with the last game against Liverpool. That showed the spirit of the club. And if you told me 5 6 years before that Southampton would get relegated, the time when Mane scored a hat trick against Liverpool, when the likes of Shaw and a lot of good talent came through that club, and it's sad to see this club go down. But yeah, that's how Premier League is. That is how the ecosystem is. So yeah.
Yes, you have to give the credit to Nottingham Forest. They were in the bottom three for a lot for period, but they still managed. Yes, so that is a surprising thing as well. So let's move on to